Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I had a dream about this game show, and this game show is called Car on a Pedestal. It's just a working name right now. I'm sure I can think of a better one later, but it's Car on a Pedestal, and it starts like at 4 feet high, and the pedestal is smooth, you know, and it's like maybe marble or something like that. And the car, it's only as big as the wheelbase of the car, right? And it starts at like 4 feet high. And then you get 3 contestants, and the 3 contestants come in, they go through 2 rounds of questions. The first round of questions are like medium difficulty, all right? And for every question they miss on there is 6 inches, all right? And for the hard category, every question they miss on that one is 3 inches. And so what happens is that at the end of the game, the guy with the best score says, you know, they come up the final round and say, okay, this is the final round for the car. All right, you missed one question in the first round and 3 questions in the second round. So that's 6 inches plus 9 inches, which is what, 15 inches? And then they raise the marble slab 15 inches, and then you give the guy the key, and he says you cannot put it in any orifice, can't put it in your mouth, can't put it, you know, anywhere else, you know, and if you can get up into the car, unlock it, and get into the car and start it, the car is yours. All right. Say the first guy, but the questions are real hard, especially in that final round. All right. And so you'll get people like trying to, you know, it'll rule out the people who have like no physical ability. You know, it'd be kind of like Ninja Warrior-esque in that way. You know, you'd have to have some guy who can climb. But you get to that third contestant or something like that, and it's raised up, and you miss 6 questions in the second round, and 8 in the first round. So this is like 12 feet high. Do you want to even try it? It's like, no. But you could get like some guys like where it's like maybe like 8, 12 feet high on the slab, and you have to climb up and like run up and like put the key in with the key in one hand, run up and try to like pull yourself up into the car. I think that could be an interesting game show, or it's just something that crazy people dream about. So, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. We have some technical difficulties again. Apparently, I'm electric. Every time I try to plug my headphones in, there's a short. I don't know. I think it's all that time. You ever seen that movie Down Periscope with Kelsey Grammer? That guy who keeps getting electrocuted all the time? Yeah, I think I was a radioman. He was a radioman. So I think I have that. I have electricity running through my body. Anyway. So yeah, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I've reminded you I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. I also have Cash App, hashtag Shock Monkey Radio. Follow me on social media at TheKnowledgeSaw, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, or at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download. Check the links in the description down below. Yeah, I'm going quick through the promo stuff because, I got to talk to a fan the other day. I've been talking to him quite regularly, actually, and it's good to get a little constructive criticism every now and then. And so I was talking to this guy. I met him in EverQuest 2, and he's like, at one point we were talking. He's like, so what do you do? And it's like, where do you live? We talk a little bit about each other. And I said, yeah, I do this YouTube channel thing. And he's like, oh, cool. And so he checked out my YouTube channel and he liked it. And he's like, oh, I'm a real big fan. I like your show. And we started voice chatting on EverQuest 2, and we had these conversations, He's like, I've talked to him so much that I could even imitate his voice. Hold on. It's weird because he doesn't even sound Canadian. And he goes, I really like your show. I think your show's is the best. It's really good. It's really good. It's like you're impossible to troll, It's like you laugh at criticism. It's like you let it roll off your back. I can respect that. That's great. I love it. That's what he sounds like. And so he kept saying things like, yeah, you're impossible. You're impossible to troll. It's like nothing gets under your skin. I like that. I told him, it's like, well, when you have no ego to wound, it's like, he's like, it's like you don't even care how many subscribers you get. I'm like, no, I don't. It's like I'd rather have one subscriber who is twinking me out in EverQuest 2. So I appreciate it, bro. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I think your show's the best. I really love that art thing. By the way, this monster here is the one that drops the sword you want. Yeah, I love that one where the guys are like going to go have sex with that girl, and she you're looking around the room and you're like, I don't like this painting. Can I turn this painting around? It's like, can I cover up this statue? It's like, you know what? I don't want to do this. You have horrible taste in art. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I laughed my ass off. That was really, really funny. And he's like, he keeps saying, "Are you going to donate to Trump? I know you're American. Do you care about Trump?" And it's like, yeah, I like Trump, all right. It's like, you should donate to his campaign. Should really help him out, and it would really make a difference. I was like, okay. But, I don't have any money. But he also gave me a heads up. It's like there's apparently another competing podcast that's going to be coming out soon that allegedly may steal my Shock Monkey Radio logo, and it's going to be like a stock watch financial news program called Stock Money Radio, and they might steal. Like they said that the rumor is they may put dollar signs over the monkey's eyes, so I may have to get into litigation. I may have to get into litigation soon. And so he's like, you know what I really like? It's like I've never been watching your show and said, all right, dude, move on. And it's like you're really good at it's like you're talking just enough about something, and then you move on to the next thing. It's really good because I got ADD. I was like, okay. So I wish you'd become a patron, bro. I wish you would become a patron. Get involved that way. But you're twinking me out in EverQuest 2, so who am I to complain? I guess you're donating to the cause in one way or another. In many ways, you're donating against the cause. If I keep this guy playing EverQuest, he'll stop making shows. His shows will start to suck. Anyway, thanks for the fans, and I really don't care that I got 124 subscribers. Who cares? I think I got a good quality people. It's not about quantity for me, it's about quality. And that's the same way I feel about friendship. I'd rather have a few quality friends than a whole bunch of people I can barely stand. Anyway, speaking of monkeys, I want to talk about Ross's illegal pet monkey, Marcel. Do you guys remember Friends? Do you remember watching Friends? I remember watching Friends. I didn't watch it again. I watched one episode again, and I was like, ooh, this is horrible. Why did we all care about this so much? It's absurd. And I remember seeing Ross's monkey, Marcel, the first time, and I think that was in season 1. A doctor, a paleontologist who is a doctor, got an illegal primate living in New York City. These spoiled white kids in New York, especially in the 90s, they were getting away with anything. All right, and you know how impossible it would be to keep a monkey a secret in an apartment building in New York City? Not only you got people across the way always looking in, but monkeys are fairly smart and quick. Someone opens the door, what's his name? Matthew Perry comes busting in one time, and the monkey just goes, pew, bolts right out the door like a cat. Next thing you know, you got to run around this building buying the silence of other tenants. And inevitably, it'll happen. The monkey will get out. The monkey will get out and scratch somebody. It'll bite somebody. It'll steal fruit from a cart in the street, steal hot dogs from a vendor or something like that. Then you got the cops coming. You got animal control. You got lawsuits out the wazoo. It's like, are you the owner of this monkey? He's like, I'm a paleontologist. You know how Ross does. He does these weird grimaces after everything he says. I'm just a paleontologist. Why would I own a monkey?
That's Jim from The Office.
No, that's comedy writing. He's like, everyone who complains about that's sitcom writing. Everyone who complains is like, you watch Friends with the laugh track, and Ross comes off like super creepy. Oh, yeah. But that's the point. It's like you could do that with almost any sitcom, because there's all these laugh beats. That's just the way sitcoms are written, because they do it. Because it's all like back from the days of film before a live studio audience. And then say, screw that, we'll just put laugh tracks in it. Why get all these stinky people in here dirtying up our bathrooms? But my point is that you can't have a primate in the city, And there were constantly, sometimes there were storylines that involved Marcel. But what I mean is they never were more like any realistic storylines, And you couldn't, you don't even need to be direct with the most disgusting aspects of what monkeys do. All right, you could always like say like what was Courtney Cox's character's name? Monica. It's like Monica like comes out of a room and is like, why is the monkey always spanking himself in my room? Or why is the monkey always spanking me in my room? You know, you could do it like a double entendre, you know, under the surface. But I mean, you could be straight up direct when Matt LeBlanc says, why is your monkey constantly throwing poo at me? All right, it's a monkey. It's a primate in New York City. It always ends badly. You remember King Kong? There's a reason why it's illegal to have primates in New York City. Not to mention, what kind of contacts does a paleontologist have with the seedy underbelly of the world of illegal exotic animal trafficking? Who do you work with, Ross? Anyway, I'm trying to look out for my brethren, other monkeys in the world. You know, it's they shouldn't be exploited by people, especially by weird paleontologists that live in New York City. You know, I'm just looking out for my brethren. They don't belong in a city. All right? They're monkeys, for God's sakes. They're filthy animals. You know how I know? Because they're very closely related to us genetically. We're pretty filthy too. People like monkeys jerk off all the time. So do humans. We just have a brain big enough to know not to do it in front of other people. So I mean, what's weird is like there's a lot of people who do it in front of their pets, and it's not like I feel like I shouldn't even talk about this. It's not even intentional. It's like I'm not. It doesn't add anything. It's just like, well, the pet's here. He's not going to tell anybody. I don't know. It all seems pretty damn weird. Monkeys, humans, all animals were pretty damn weird. Anyway, let's talk about superheroes. There's a lot of like female influences on like especially comic book movies and in comic books and so forth. But I think we've forgotten that the superhero is a male power fantasy. Superman is is somebody imagining what it's like to have godlike power, you know, and then there's the difficulty of writing a character like Superman is like what can really challenge him, and so you can't make compelling storylines where he just grabs Hitler and Mussolini and takes them to the world court and says throw these guys in jail, no due process, and flies off with a little salute, you know. So I mean, and that's a male power fantasy, and these power fantasies from Superman to Spider-Man to Batman, even Batman, even though he's a normal guy, he's got all this tech, he's got all this training, he's got all this ability. It's like in many ways, that's why I think Batman is very much a favorite of people's in terms of like, because it could be real. Batman could be real. Superman, Spider-Man, not so much. But the point of these power fantasies is because men grow up seeing injustice in the world and they say, I wish I had the power to do something about it, or I had the power to do something about it and I did nothing. I think that's where that metaphor comes in, psychologically speaking. I don't think that applies very well to women. I think a woman's power fantasy in many ways is more like Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. She's, she's got immunity to fire or whatever like that. She's got one minor superpower, but she can command dragons, all right? But the dragons, are these powerful beasts, and she doesn't necessarily control every aspect of them, It's like teenage girls and horses. The whole idea of like horses is like it's a powerful creature. In many ways, it's a metaphor for meeting a powerful man, or getting involved with a powerful man. I hate to get all sexist about this, but I think that's what it's about. It's the same thing with Daenerys and the dragons. All right, or it's like, or the female power fantasy being like Scarlet Witch, where you give birth to the monster or the savior of the universe, So, I mean, I think that's more along the lines of like what the dichotomy or the sexual dimorphism of power fantasies when it comes to entertainment. And I think that's why a lot of guys like me are watching these new like superhero movies, and it's like it's moving too much into this female power fantasy realm where everyone's respecting her or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to understand it. But I'm not saying that, you know, comics should be a segregated place, you know. What I am saying is that, you know, it's, you know, men and women are different, you know. They're different. All right, we're running behind today because of my electrifying personality. And I'm going to skip this thing. I was going to talk about John Paul Jones, but I could put that off to next week's maybe. So a lot of conservatives, I was listening to specifically Gavin McInnes the other day, and he's talking about, it's like, yeah, you know, get married young, start pumping them kids out because we need young, pious conservatives in this world, you know, and everyone who isn't that kind of person are just killing their kids or castrating them. And, you know, and I was thinking about, like, what if I had gotten married young and married my high school sweetheart? And I'm going to tell you, it probably wouldn't have worked out well for us. Yeah, my high school sweetheart was, her name was Jenny, Virginia. And she, we'd go to Pizza Hut and have something to eat, and then we'd make out in the car for a bit and talk. And so, and I guess she kind of got serious. It kind of scared me off when she started having these conversations like, well, you'll go to college, you know, you'll get a degree at a good job, and I'll just work while you're doing that. And then we start thinking about getting a house and maybe some kids. And that kind of freaked me out, and I pushed her away, and I don't know. But I had not encountered alcohol at any real point yet that in my life. I have not really dealt with my anger. You know, testosterone is a hell of a drug. I'll talk about that more in a bit. But I haven't really, like, dealt with any of that. And I haven't really dealt with my depression. I had anger, I had depression issues, and I, you know, hadn't really discovered alcohol yet. So, if we had gotten together and gotten married, or if I had gone to college, you know, and like that, at some point I would have probably come in contact with alcohol, you know, and think my depression and anger would have gotten worse, and I would have treated her horribly. I would have been selfish and rude. I mean, there's people who think I'm rude now. You should have seen me 10, 15 years ago. EK should be over there shaking his head. Oh my God. There's a reason why I got the name the Madman. All right. Been called a madman for a long time. All right. And it just wouldn't have worked out well for both of us because I didn't really get all that under control until, seriously, like late 30s, early 40s. But here's the thing. Jenny died in a car accident when I was 18. And so I wonder if it was better. This is rough to even say or think. If it was better for her to go through that than to be with me at that age. I don't know. I don't know why God chooses to take people. I don't know why he doesn't choose to stop it. You know, because it all has an effect on our lives. It all has an effect on our lives. So I think me not getting married young was probably a bad idea. I think it's better for me to be old now, because I guess I was a late bloomer in the sense that, like, I really, you know, had to get things under control, and I was an awful person even at 18 years old. So I'm just glad I'm not as awful now. All right, sorry to get real heavy, but, you know, it's going to be heavy as we get into the news worth knowing. As we get into the news worth knowing. Trust me, it's going to ramp up. There's happier stories. I put an abundance of happier stories at the end so we can have some laughs before we get out of here today. But continuing with the heavy stuff. Now, I have an article here, but I'm not necessarily going to read it because there's unlimited amounts of articles about this shooting in Nashville Covenant School. And so I'll just give you the rundown of the basics, the facts. A 28-year-old woman, probably hopped up on antidepressants and testosterone, shot her way into a school, a Christian school, ended up killing 3 children, age 9, and 3 faculty members. including the headmaster of the school. Do they call it headmaster? Head of the school. Janitor, and I believe another a substitute teacher. Those 3 9-year-old children are 9 years old. That's my niece's age. All right. It's horrific. It's horrific. Now, props to the police department for their incredible response. Now, I know after Uvalde, a lot of people are like, that's how it's done. But I mean, you got to understand, Uvalde is a smaller community, and like Nashville's a bigger community, and they can afford more training for their troops and stuff. Their troops, their special operations, and their SWAT people, and so forth. And so they had better training, I think. And props to them, because the video, is amazing, because they're clearing rooms like professionals, and like they're moving. They start hearing the gunshots upstairs. Then they just like made a beeline, running straight into the danger, take care of the threat. All right. Amazing work. And I feel like it's, complimenting these guys shouldn't be a rare thing. It should be exactly what takes place in a situation like that. Now, we should celebrate the lives of the victims, of course. But I'm not with the Daily Wire or particularly Ben Shapiro on the idea that we shouldn't say these killers' names and so forth, or even like discuss their manifestos and stuff like that. And I'll tell you my reason why. It's like, because sometimes you could read something that Ted Kaczynski wrote and say, that kind of makes sense. However, you could say, I don't agree with Ted Kaczynski about the manner in which you like fight against these awful things. Violence should be the last resort, But cowardly sending bombs in the mail is awful. Those two things can be true at once. All right, and I think it helps to understand a little bit about why these people do what they do. All right, from what I could tell, this person was a woman who thought they were a male, and wasn't even a confused teenager. It was an adult female who is probably taking hormone therapy, which includes testosterone. And I don't know if you know what testosterone is. If you're male, you know what testosterone feels like. All right? And if you don't grow up as a young boy, especially, I remember like being 12 or 13, finally understanding what the word pissed off means. Because when the testosterone started shooting into my bloodstream and I got angry, I felt like I needed to urinate. And it's like, what is this sensation I'm feeling? That's what pissed off. Is that what that means? I'm so angry I could piss. And so, but over the years, I was able to acclimate myself to it. It's like, Dad, I'm like freaking out. And it's like punching walls, punching pillows, screaming at video games. People with testosterone know what it's like to have that kind of burning sensation of that hormone coursing through our veins. And if you give it to an adult female who's been female all her life and will be all her life, and start injecting male drugs into their body, and they're not accustomed to it, they're going to start, their hair will start flipping out, and they're going to start cleaning guns. Wasn't there a Simpsons episode where the kid got the hormone treatment, the testosterone, and now I just want to fight everybody? Testosterone's nuts, and we shouldn't be giving it to people that don't need it. I'm tired. I am tired of this war on the truth. All right? And I am tired of there being a lack of mental institutions in this country, not only for the sake of people like this, but also for the sake of the homeless. All right, some of those homeless people need a place where they are forced to stay clean. All right, that's the advantage of a mental hospital, because they're not on the streets continuing to use. They can dry out some, maybe try to get their life together. And when it comes to these mentally ill kids who are being influenced by teachers or media or whatever, trying to sell them the lie that they could be some other gender than what they are, you're going to have these kinds of problems, because falsity cannot exist in reality. That's the point. Truth is the point. Anyway, these The story that I prepared for this is about the head of the school who charged towards the shooter, even though she was unarmed. And the only phrase that came to mind was "over my dead body." And I think that in my soul, and I hope in every good person's soul in this world, it's like, even if you're trapped in a position where for some reason you're not allowed to be strapped in your school, or have a school resource officer or armed security at your school, that you are going to hurt these children over my dead body should be what's in our minds and in our hearts. You know, one awful person did this. Anyway, so let's go to the next story, because obviously what you may think is happening, and that is, guns are the problem. Guns are the problem. So Randi Weingarten calls for gun confiscation. Quote, "We must have the courage to do what Australia and New Zealand did." Anyway, Teachers Union President Randi Weingarten called for the gun confiscation Tuesday, saying the U.S. must follow what other great democracies have done to ban guns, following the shooting at the Christian Nashville school. Weingarten addressed American Federation of Teachers Tuesday morning, regarding the aftermath of the school shooting that killed 3 children and 3 adults. After having a moment of silence for the victims, she reignited a call to ban assault weapons. Quote, "Today we renew our call for common sense gun safety regulation, including a ban on assault weapons. This is an epidemic," she said. Adding, "It's an epidemic across that our great nation must solve, and how many lives must be shattered before we have the courage to do what Scotland did, what Australia did, what New Zealand did, what other great democracies do." You think those are great democracies? We must solve this epidemic, and that's up to us. Anyway, Democratic politicians frequently point to Scotland, Australia, and New Zealand banning guns in the wake of the mass shootings to support bans in the U.S. Scotland got the UK to ban handguns, and Australia issued a mandatory gun buyback program in 1996 of semi-automatic rifles and shotguns. Meanwhile, New Zealand enacted a semi-automatic weapons ban days after the 2019 Christchurch shooting that killed 50 people in 2 mosques. Those places are police states now. Did you see what happened during COVID in Australia? Anyway, bans and mandatory buybacks all necessitate confiscation of guns to be enforced. And you're going to get them all. If you do one of that, you're going to get them all. While appearing later on MSNBC's Deadline White House, Weingarten claimed her words had been doctored to suggest that she had called for gun confiscation. Well, I guess you implied it. Frankly, I saw it today in my speech when I called on us to do a moment of silence for the Tennessee Christian school in a speech that I was giving to public school, to parents and teachers, but to also renew a call for an assault weapons ban. And then somebody doctored the speech and said I was calling to confiscate guns. So all day long, that's what I've been dealing with, she said. But she insisted, the point is I want to make is to widen the despair, widen the anxiety, not actually solve problems we need to solve, which is gun violence, learning loss, and the sadness kids have. So what I tried to do today in my speech in the defense of public education was to talk not about just the problems, but 4 things we could actually do to transform the education of America. That logic, wow. Elsewhere in her AFT address, Weingarten attacked efforts by Republican politicians such as Governor Ron DeSantis to push culture wars, quote, culture wars, as a way to undermine public schools. Quote, "We started as fights over pandemic-era safety measures has morphed into fear-mongering. False claims that elementary and secondary schools are teaching critical race theory, disgusting unfounded claims that all teachers are grooming and indoctrinating students, and pronouncements that public schools push a woke agenda, even though they can't or won't define what they mean. Banning books and bullying vulnerable children, school board meetings, descending and screaming matches. This is an organized and dangerous effort to undermine public schools," Weingarten said. So in that last paragraph there, she did admit what the problem is. It's like all that stuff you just said is the real problem. It's not guns. It's all that stuff. The woke agenda. Teaching kids they can be boys if they're girls and girls if they're boys. You keep teaching them falsehoods. It's like if CNN is came to me and said, "It's like, what can we do to improve our ratings?" Stop lying. Live like the truth exists. That's how we all need to live in order to live as valuable human beings in society. But if you constantly got your phone in your hand, pointing at yourself, doing TikToks, discussing like what you're trying to explain how you feel your pronouns should be used from now until noon. Actually, I'm extending it to 4:30. At 4:30, I'm reverting back to a he, him. All right? It's navel gazing. It's what my wrestling coach would call mental masturbation. All right? All you people just constantly talking about you, like you're that interesting. I'm not interesting. Okay? But I'm more interesting than you. Anyway. Let's start ramping up the funny. Let's have some fun with the news today. As you can see, I did 2 news stories, got two or three news stories. I'm just, let's chill it out. DNA from half-eaten burrito ties ex-Wisconsin doctoral student to pro-life center firebombing attack. DNA found in a half-eaten burrito helped expose a former Wisconsin University research assistant, now accused of firebombing a pro-life center last Mother's Day. Mom didn't take my call. The attack on the headquarters of Wisconsin Family Action in Madison, Wisconsin, came about a week after the leak of a Supreme Court draft opinion that would later overturn Roe v. Wade. About 10 months after a Molotov cocktail was tossed inside the office and the message, "If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either," was scrawled on the building's side. Forgive me, I'm going to butcher the name. Ridindu Sankar Radchowri, 20.
It says James.
Huh?
It says James.
James? Am I dyslexic? No, that's because, I mean, there's an H and an R in a row, and I'm just like, am I reading this backwards? It's like, even in your own language, it's got to be a hard name to say. All right. Anyway, he's 20. Rod Chowdhury. I got Roy Chowdhury. Or Roy Chowdhury. Forgive me. He's 29 of Madison, was arrested in Boston on Tuesday and charged with 1 count of attempting to cause damage by means of fire or an explosive. The Justice Department said he traveled from Madison to Portland, Maine, then purchased a one-way ticket from Boston to Guatemala City, Guatemala, departing Tuesday morning. My Lord. Law enforcement arrested him at Boston Logan International Airport. According to the complaint, the guy used an incendiary device in violation of federal law in connection with his efforts to terrorize and intimidate a private organization, said Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson of the Justice Department. Violence is never an acceptable way, obviously. That's a quote. I'm trying to find out his, identified as a suspect, affidavit. What was he doctored in? That's what I'm looking for. That's all I really care about. Okay, let's talk about the DNA. Okay, local police officers observed him dispose of food in a public trash can, and the officers recovered the leftover food and related items, and law enforcement connected DNA from the food. The affidavit says officers recovered a paper bag filled with a quarter portion of a partially eaten burrito wrapped in wax paper, a soiled napkin, a crumpled napkin, a stack of napkins. They give out too many napkins sometimes. Wrapper of the burrito, crumpled food wrapper, and 4 unopened sauce packets. But here's the thing, is like it's a fine line between not enough and too many napkins. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you get some fast food or something like that, and you're like, they gave me 1 napkin for 2 burritos. And look, dude, if you can't have your eyes be bigger than your stomach, especially if you're going to firebomb a place. Finish the burrito, or don't get it. Anyway, I'm still looking for any. His LinkedIn profile said he's a doctor of philosophy and biochemistry. Jeepers. This man should be charged with domestic terrorism. And the good taxpayers of the state should be paying his salary. Should not be paying his salary. Dietrich tweeted. State Representative Barbara Dietrich. Anyway. Finish your burritos. Finish your burritos. Alrighty. This is a guy. Let's call this one. If I had to write a headline for this article, it'd be Pot Meets Kettle. Man kicked off flight for being fatphobic and rude, yet he had nowhere to sit.
I'm sorry.
Please silence your cell phones. Anyway, an airline drama has been lighting up Reddit, attracting nearly 6,000 reactions to date and over 2,500 comments. A man describing himself as 18 years old said he was traveling to my home country, did not say which one, and had just boarded a second connecting flight, which he said would last roughly 12 hours, when things would seem to get very ugly quickly. Quote, I had a delightful sight of an obese man who was taking up a good chunk of my seat. The man identified him as L4 Pipe 0 _ Salamanca, wrote in a subreddit known as AITA, which is Am I the Asshole? The man, continuing his no-holds-barred narrative about the situation, went on. I'm not a small guy myself. I have quite broad shoulders, and I'm about 190 centimeters. European. Nearly 6'3". So a full seat would already have been uncomfortable. He added, I told the flight attendant about the issue. She told me that the seat was paid for by this obese person and the flight was full. The man did not name the airline, but continued, I asked the flight attendant how it's possible that my seat is rendered as available if it is being used for someone's literal rolls. What a D-bag. Already I'm saying you're the a-hole. The Redditor went on. Then I added on how this airline wasn't absolutely terrible just a few years ago. It wasn't just this incident. They went downhill in quality, parenthetically. I went on further and noted these comments prompted the flight attendant to call me rude and just made her double down on having me kicked off the plane, though she reassured me I'd be compensated for this trouble. And I told her I wasn't traveling for vacation. Gave it too much information. Then the Redditor provided further color. A fat man took his opportunity to call me a fatphobic shit. Some other people around gave me the stink eye. He went on to say, I know there are a couple of bad people. I know they think I'm a bad person for this. But on the other hand, I'm having to pay for a lack of discipline in another person as well as the shitty airline's booking system. The man continued, the airline staff sent a letter of complaint that I got appealed, and the consequence in the compliment being a temporary ban were removed less than an hour later. He also wrote in a letter of the complaint, it said I was being rude to other passengers and the staff. Since it got appealed so quick, I got to travel the next day. Anyway, I'm really not sure if I'm the a-hole. Ask the man in the conclusion, am I the a-hole for comments that have offended both the fat man and the airline staff? Yes, resoundingly, always yes. Fox News Digital reached out to a psychologist for insights in the conflict and attempted to reach a Reddit poster as well. Really? People on Reddit, meanwhile, held nothing back in their replies to the original poster's query. One commenter, in part, it probably would have been handled very differently if you had handled it differently. That's very insightful. Yeah. So is it possible to switch seats so that maybe there's a fat skinny or something like that? All right, another person added, I know air travel can turn people into idiots, so please, everyone, don't be that idiot. Another individual in the comment section minced no words and considered the original posters an a-hole for the actions on the day on the plane. Person wrote, the statement of the lack of discipline got me to vote this way. Sure, maybe that guy had a lack of discipline, but maybe he has a medical issue that keeps him from losing weight. Whatever. Someone else wrote, I am also a tall and broad-shouldered person, but learn some damn tact. This person went on, the original poster was fat-shaming the guy. Did he even try asking the dude to move over a little bit, or did he go straight to bitching to that flight attendant? I love the internet. Same commenter said, learn some diplomacy. Excellent. Another person stood up for the airline personnel. Flight attendant can't really do much unless there's an empty seat to have put him in, or they may play musical chairs. They don't make airline policy. Yet another person shared this. It's interesting. He says that he shouldn't have to deal with somebody else's lack of discipline, but yet he made the entire plane deal with him as he threw his little baby tantrum. Yeah. Yeah, you the a-hole. You the a-hole. You know, I understand that, you know, I mean, even if you're a big guy, you can't expect other people, you know, these service industry people to accommodate you because of that. You know, that's on you. It's like if you go to like an amusement park and they say, sorry, you're too big to ride, you know, or something like that. And it's just like, you should accommodate. You should have rides for guys as big as me. And it's like, you realize that the size of people has never been bigger, you know. Plus, you know, these airlines are trying to make seating smaller and smaller and smaller so they can fit more rows, pack more people into each plane for more profit. So they'd rather just like have articles like this. It's like, oh, it's just nothing we can do. We don't make policy. So seats get smaller and smaller and smaller. And people keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, just, you know, you don't have to be a D-bag. There's ways around it. All right, 2 more stories. All right, Ohio family finds an owl stuck in their chimney as it sets off their carbon monoxide alarm. An Ohio family was forced to evacuate their home this month after high levels of carbon monoxide were detected due to a creature being trapped in their chimney. The culprit, an owl, had been stuck inside the structure, which caused a carbon monoxide leak and activated the alarm. The Cincinnati Animal Care Humane Society shared the news in a tweet on March 16th following the owl's removal. Where was this again? Ohio. Hamilton County, Ohio? Okay. As a team of Hamilton County dog wardens, which has operated the Cincinnati Animal Care, arrived on the scene to rescue the bird. The owl was safely removed from the chimney and reportedly unharmed. A video of the owl was released and shown flying away. Good. Family has since returned to their home, Cincinnati Animal Care reported. Owls become attracted to chimneys is apparently fairly common. It is. In February 2021, Fox 8 in Cleveland, Ohio reported that wildlife crews were called after a Massachusetts homeowner discovered a barred owl in their chimney. Barred owls are the common species of owl that can be found in the eastern, central, and northwestern United States, according to the National Audubon Society, nonprofit which is dedicated to the conservation of birds and their habitats. The Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife shared an informational Facebook post after the owl's rescue and release. Barred owls do not build their own nests. They are cavity nesters, meaning they typically will select a hollow of a tree or use the nest of a hawk or squirrel to lay their eggs. This particular barred owl might have been looking for a cavity in the nest when it found itself in the chimney with no easy escape. The post continued, to help prevent wild animals like birds, rats, and raccoons, squirrels from entering your home, we recommend you place a metal cap on the screen on your chimney. It was unknown at the time of the publication if the owl was rescued from the Ohio chimney was a barred owl. Yeah. So here's the thing. It's like, imagine that like that first night and you're like in the living room and you're watching TV and you hear this coming from the chimney, coming from the fireplace. What the hell is that? Mom, I think the house is haunted. Then all of a sudden the carbon monoxide thing goes off. It's talking to us. Speak. You get the Christmas lights out. You plug in the Christmas lights like in Stranger Things. Talk to me. You know, it's good. You know, it's good that the carbon monoxide thing, because the owl could have possibly died in there without them knowing. You know, plus, you know, it must have been rough because I mean, if the carbon monoxide thing, it must have been they were having fires. You know, so it may have been very hot and uncomfortable for that owl, and I'm sure the owl's glad to have gotten out of there. It's like, ugh, that's not good. All right. So this is probably the best one, best article I've read all week. This has cheered me up. I love it. So woman's hilariously honest obituary of her dad goes viral. Equal parts daredevil and lush. So a woman from Georgia has gone viral for a candid and humorous obituary she wrote for her father 8 days after her death. Halia Milner, the owner of Go With It Farm in Sandy Springs, Georgia, shared a 715-word obituary on Facebook that honored her late father, Kenneth Kenny Joseph Pluar, Jr. He died on his birthday, March 2nd, at the age of 62, according to Milner. He died, quote, after losing a battle with sepsis while admitted into intensive care unit at a local hospital in Alton, Illinois, Milner wrote. She described her father as an outdoorsy person who was hard as nails and stubborn. Pluhar's three true loves were hunting, fishing, and drinking, according to Milner, who also enjoyed listening to country and western music. Like every sad cowboy song, he couldn't stay married, but that didn't keep him from trying again and again, Milner wrote of her father. Quote, he had a total of 4 legal marriages and divorces and 1 common law marriage under his belt that we know of. Milner noted that she is Pluhar's only known child, and she too is the mother of 1. Pluhar grew up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and worked as a carpenter. Quote, Kenny had a green thumb, was outdoorsy, and was a skilled carpenter. This meant that he was great at growing his own weed and was a champion of hide and seek for $2K a week when he worked for the union. Hide and seek for $2K a week. Excuse me. He actually was a halfway decent carpenter. People bragged about his craftsmanship, if you convinced him to show up at work, which most people weren't capable of accomplishing. Milner wrote that while Pluhar was known to start fights, he had a strong friendship that spanned 50 years. She noted that her father was an emotionally unavailable yet overly sensitive, all rolled into one, which Milner considers a family trait. Pluhar also liked to tell a good story, one which includes how he saved a life by being a doomsday prepper, according to Milner. Quote, Kenny was good about just about anything he tried to be good at and was wicked smart. He was wicked smart. But that didn't stop him from trying to do his best to do absolutely nothing except drink, smoke, and listen to music. Pluhar is survived by his father, Kenneth, Joseph Pluhar Sr., his siblings, his daughter, Aaliyah Milner, and his granddaughter, and a plethora of nieces and nephews that he terrorized and traumatized in countless and original manners. His obituary states, quote, truly it was survivorship when it came to Uncle Kenny, Milner wrote. Pluhar was preceded in his death by his mother, Connie McKinnon Donaldson, who he called Mommy until the day he died, according to Milner. Proof positive, this is a quote, proof positive that is even the biggest assholes, parenthetically jerks, have a soft side, and you just may have to dig deeper to find it, Milner continued. Milner's obituary has gone viral, and countless social media users have offered their sympathies in addition to their thoughts on Pluhar's recapped life. Quote, this is brilliantly and hilariously written, one Facebook user wrote. Quite the tribute. He had a rather unique place in your life. Talk about a great obit. This is another quote. All the grit and the grime and the sprinkles of love. You got a sense of who he was, what he was all about. Multiple articles in Psychology Today, a human behavior magazine, states that humor can help people cope with grief and stress. Duh. I hope you didn't have to do a whole lot of research. Hope it didn't cost a lot of money to figure that one out, Doc. Anyway, so please do this for me. He was a dick, but he meant well. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Have a ball, throw a party, get trashed, crash on my couch. I'm not going to be using it that night. That's great. Anyway, humor definitely can get us through the bad times. Sorry I went real in the deep end there in the middle, but that's okay. That's okay. We can get out. We can climb out of it. I keep a ladder around just for that kind of thing. This is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I also have Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. You can follow me on social media at DNALATSAW. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. And at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Also, my books available for digital download. Search for the links down below. Search for the author, Scott L. Robbins, with 2 T's and 2 B's. Yeah, this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.